Hey, welcome to my channel. My name's Carter. I love talking about movies, comic books, superhero movies, and horror movies. And today I just wanted to kind of give my little quick review of Creature Commandos Season 1. Creature Commandos is, of course, written by James Gunn. It is his brainchild. It uses some very small characters from the DC universe. Suicide Squad-esque TV show, very adult animated. For those that might not be familiar with the Creature Commandos, it's Task Force M. So where Suicide Squad is Task Force X, this is M. It takes place after the events of The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker Season 1, which is a little confusing and I'm not too thrilled about. But I trust James Gunn. So it follows those. The government can't use superhumans anymore for their secret missions, so they use monsters. And enter the Creature Commandos. And right off the bat, one of the positives that I really enjoyed from the show, I think the writing is just phenomenal. James Gunn, I've always found him to be a very, very strong writer. Even though I don't love his movie Super, the rest of the films that he's written, even the early Scooby-Doo movies, I actually really enjoy. James Gunn is someone who is really able to kind of balance the weight of sacrifice and finding family wherever it may be and heart, but also have a ton of really funny jokes, bits, and gags, and very, very memorable sequences. Creature Commandos continues that type of James Gunn writing very, very well by giving each one of the commandos a very interesting and unique backstory and balancing it with just like over-the-top gore and blood and kills every single episode. This really goes for it. I mean, there's F-bombs, there's nudity, and then there's guys getting their jaws ripped off, heads blown up, etc., etc. And at the end of the day, watching all that in animation is fun. It's one of the reasons why I really enjoy Invincible, because it just goes for it. But something that set the Creature Commandos apart was that it really, again, just had a lot of heart. You start out with these almost despicable characters. They're just like so zany and over the top and so grating. And as you watch the season, more and more of them are revealed to just be kind of tragically framed or misunderstood. And while it doesn't totally excuse every single one of their actions, because some of them are very heinous, it makes you understand the Creature Commandos in a more deep and methodical sense. And I thought that James Gunn did such a great job when it came to that, just showing you who these Creature Commandos are, what they want and what they stand for, and then just contrasting that with the crazy, zany feel of the world around it. I also think that the animation was very strong. This and Invincible continue to have the best animation as far as superhero TV. I mean, same with X-Men 97. It's really just What If that has like a horrible animation style in my opinion. But I will say I really enjoyed the animation style of Creature Commandos. The voice acting was phenomenal. Having Frank Grillo, Maria Bakalova, Viola Davis, and primary speaking roles. I mean, they deliver as always. I never really had any doubt that they would deliver, but it's nice to know that they can. I also really enjoyed the fact that this was a pretty self-contained story. It's not interested in setting up a broad arc or narrative for the DC universe as a whole. It's just interested in telling this little Suicide Squad-esque story, and it's really fun, and I enjoyed it personally quite a bit because The Suicide Squad, probably my favorite DC movie besides like The Batman and The Dark Knight. Easily just one of my favorites. It's so fun, and everything that I wanted from Creature Commandos and everything that I loved from the Suicide Squad is what I got in Creature Commandos, honestly. And I think that James Gunn did a very good job of translating this to animation and to a TV format. It felt like a TV show. It didn't feel like a movie that was cut up and split up to be a TV show, and it just awkwardly cuts at times. It felt like they knew they wanted to make a TV show, and so they set out, wrote TV-sized scripts, produced TV-sized scripts, and created TV-length episodes. So I really enjoyed that, and I think that honestly, Creature Commandos is a success. It's fun, it's funny, it's heartbreaking, it has some very, very dark moments, and I thought that the weight of it all was balanced very well. And getting into some mixed here, again, like I said, it's going to be a shorter review of this season. I do think that the 30-minute episodes were both a help and a hindrance to this series. That's why it's in the mix. I just say that sometimes the pacing just felt like it was like a breakneck pace, and while you got a lot of time to sit with the characters and their backstories, Sometimes characters like Rick Flag, you wouldn't really get to know a lot about because he doesn't get a flashback, he doesn't get a backstory, he's just put there, and he's just in charge of the Creature Commandos. He's like the straight man to them. And while a lot happens in the present day, it doesn't really feel like it's the main focus. It almost feels like it's just kind of a backdrop for some action scenes to play out and for a few status quo things to change, and you get introduced to Rick Flag, but nothing like super monumentous and super interesting until like the last couple of episodes. I mean, you get a few cameos here and there from characters I didn't expect, but really it felt like James Gunn and company were very interested in telling the backstories of these Creature Commandos and telling us the tragic beginnings of every single member of the team, not really too focused on what was going on in the present. So I would have enjoyed seeing more like full-length Invincible-esque type episodes where it's like 45 minutes to an hour. I honestly think that would have helped quite a bit. Well, I did enjoy the Saturday morning cartoon feel where it's 30 minutes, super quick, you're in and out of an episode and the hour's not even over. I think that the series really could have used just a little bit of breathing room. And by no means am I like super negative. I just think that it's something that could have helped it quite a bit. Another thing that always comes up with James Gunn projects, and especially with superhero projects in general, is just sometimes the tonal whiplash can be very serious. Going from sequences of a family being brutally murdered and tortured, and you see the husband's reaction, to a dance sequence in the same episode can be a little jarring. And honestly, while I didn't feel it while watching, thinking back on it, I'm like, man, that episode of the dance sequence is so funny, and then you have to watch a family being killed and tortured and a husband tortured. And sometimes I think that Gunn especially has a hard time with some of these tonal inconsistencies. If I had to criticize him, I'd say that's my one thing that I give him. So if I had really any big criticisms about Creature Commandos, I just think that maybe the length was a little too short. I could have done with maybe another episode or maybe just a few more minutes on each of the episodes to kind of let the present time era of the story, if that even makes sense, play out a little more cleanly and a little better. But again, I really do recommend this show. I think that it has so many instances of just breaking your heart by introducing these characters that you like to watch because they're so evil, and then you see something about them, you get backstory relayed to them that's just so tragic, and it just makes you feel bad for the rest of the day, and you just think about it and you just feel bad. You can't believe you ever laughed at these people. And I think that's one of James Gunn's biggest strengths, is just kind of pulling the rug out from under the audience and defying expectations, subverting expectations in a meaningful and thematic way. So overall, I enjoyed Creature Commandos quite a bit. If I had to give it a score, I'd say like a 7.5 out of 10. Really easy to just binge through. I guess that's one positive of the short runtime and episode count of the show. And I honestly would recommend it. And I think my biggest issue with the series and with this DC reboot as a whole, as much as I love James Gunn, as excited as I am for Superman, I don't know if kind of picking and choosing what you want to take over from the old DC universe is the best idea. A casting choice or two, such as John Cena as Peacemaker, Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, and then just switching those over. Just very small roles. It wouldn't be too big of an issue for me. However, I think when you kind of take things like, Belle Reve and the inmates in Corto Maltese from the Suicide Squad, and then the events of Peacemaker, except for that Justice League cameo and maybe a few other references or canon, that's where I kind of have an issue at some points, as it just feels like, again, Gunn is picking and choosing whatever he pleases, which, I mean, he's the man, he can do it, but at the same time, it is a little bit confusing for me as an audience member. Let me know what you think about that down in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about Creature Commandos, if you loved it, if you hated it, and again, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.